Hey guys, it's Camille, and welcome back, finally, to another episode of The Amateur's Journey. I did it! I've been working very hard on this particular video. I'm so thrilled to be working on custom doll videos again. I know this video is a long one, but hear me out. So, seeing as how the last time I uploaded anything related to Amateur's Journey was 4 years ago, y'all are probably wondering, did you make any dolls in that 4-year absence? Yes, I did. 17 to be precise. Between 2020 and 2023, I made a total of 17 custom dolls. And unfortunately, I didn't film any of their transformations, but not only do I still have their final photos from their photo shoots, but I also have some behind the scenes photos that I took in the middle of their transformations as well. Some more than others, but you know, it's okay. We'll work with what we have. And since I found those behind the scene photos, that just further encouraged me to make this episode. So this episode is dedicated to all 17 dolls that I made from 2020 all the way to 2023. A very quick side note before we begin. It is very important to mention that in 2020, I did open an Etsy shop. It's called Camille's Custom Dolls. I started to sell my customs through Etsy. In fact, 2 of the dolls that were featured in previous videos were sold through there. Beetlejuice and Little Red were both sold through Etsy. In fact, Beetlejuice was one of my first sales, but like my Voltaire custom I still have, both my Coraline customs I still have, and I have Alpha still. But Little Red and Beetlejuice were sold. And all of the dolls that you're going to see here today were either sold through the shop, are still available in the shop, or were commission pieces for people who reached out to me privately. So sit back, relax, grab a snack or something, because this is going to be a long one. Here are all 17 dolls that I made from 2020 to 2023.
So in 2020, right when the pandemic began, at least in my area, you weren't allowed to leave your home unless you absolutely needed to, like for emergencies, essential reasons, and whatnot. And of course, the pandemic started like a week after I moved from North Dakota to Florida, and the only crafting items I had brought with me were my watercolor pencils, my tiny brushes, my chalk pastels, my one and only can of Mr. Super Clear, a small container of fabric, my rerouting tool, and a couple leftover hanks of doll hair. And obviously, my massive tub of dolls. I think I ordered like 5 small bottles of acrylic paint prior to the lockdown, so I was pretty limited on materials. I wanted to make something that was fun and happy, since that period wasn't exactly fun and happy. I ordered a selection of hair from dollyhair.com and hair fragrances, we'll get to that in a sec, and I went ahead and created my first custom doll of 2020, Candy. Candy was a cotton candy inspired doll. Her base was an Ever After High doll. I want to say I used an Apple White or Blondie Locks. I'm pretty sure it was Blondie Locks though. One of the hair fragrances I purchased was Cotton Candy, and I instantly got inspired to do a pink and blue color doll. Half of her hair is blue and the other half is pink, and after her reroot, I not only boil permed her hair, I also added the Cotton Candy hair fragrance to it as well. And y'all, she smelled just like the real thing. It was amazing. Her outfit was a ballerina-inspired fit. Everything except for the shoes and tights were made by me. The bodice was made out of white tulle that was painted to be slightly darker than the skirt, and her tutu was made using spare pink and blue tulle, using the same method that I used to make Beetlejuice's petticoat last episode. Her shoes were Apple White's basic heels, painted to match her outfit, and the tights were borrowed from a Madeline Hatter doll and modified to be thigh-high stockings. Since Madeline Hatter is shorter than the other characters, the tights didn't fit her completely. Her hair bow was made from some spare ribbon that I had in my fabric bin, and I pinned it directly to her head. Her repaint was a lot of fun since I don't typically work with such bold colors, and a fun detail that I added is that she has heterochromia. One of her eyes is blue and the other eye is pink. She turned out so super cute, and she just looks so sweet. She was one of the first dolls to be listed on my Etsy shop. She was also one of the first sales that I made on Etsy as well. The next doll that I made was Elijah. Elijah was an angel doll and one of the first angel dolls that I ever sold on Etsy. Angels in general have kind of become a specialty of mine. I made 3 angel dolls in the past as Christmas gifts prior to moving to Florida, so I already had some experience making them. Elijah is special in that he was my first male angel doll that I've made. All of my prior angels have been female. I did not reroot him, I kept his original factory hair. If I recall, he's a Dexter Charming doll, and he had some really nice hair to begin with and I didn't want to mess around with it. By the time I made Elijah, restrictions had started to ease up a bit, so I was able to stock up on other materials, a lot of them being these pre-made angel wings. These were from Hobby Lobby, and as of the recording of this video, the company no longer sells them. Go figure. His outfit is hand-stitched, and the unique thing about all of my angel dolls is that they're all drawn with their eyes closed. This way they can be posed sleeping or praying, since they're articulated. After Elijah was Emily, the title character from Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. For those unaware, Corpse Bride is a stop-motion animated musical fantasy film released in 2005, directed by Tim Burton and some guy named Michael Johnson. 2005 was also the year that Tim Burton blessed us with Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka, lest we forget. The movie is about a man named Victor who is extremely nervous about his arranged marriage to a woman he'd never met named Victoria, so much so he completely ruins the rehearsal ceremony and runs off in embarrassment. While out in the woods, he perfectly recites his wedding vows, accidentally summoning and marrying Emily, a bride who was murdered the night she and her lover were to be eloped, as told to the audience through song, of course. Unlike The Nightmare Before Christmas, another stop-motion film Burton had heavy involvement with, Corpse Bride never got the same kind of attention Nightmare Before Christmas gained. But over time, people considered Corpse Bride an underrated gem in Burton's film catalog, including a good friend of mine from North Dakota. So much so, she asked if I could make a doll version of Emily. Emily was my very first commissioned doll that I got to work on, and she was also at the time my most complex custom. Emily had very heavy body modifications. She required 2 separate dolls, Ghoulia Yelps from Monster High, a Gen 1 model for those curious, and the left leg and right arm of a Skeleta doll. Her skeletal arm and leg had to be superglued to the doll, so she did lose articulation in one hip and one shoulder. Her skeleton leg needed to have a fleshy foot, for lack of a better term, as Emily's leg in the film wasn't completely decomposed. On top of that, the character has slightly wider feet, hips, and breasts, all of which were sculpted onto the doll using epoxy sculpt, same with the aforementioned fleshy foot. It was my first time working with the material. All in all, highly recommend it, just be sure to wear gloves when you work with it. All of Emily's skin had to be painted from gray to blue using heavy body acrylic paints. I also had to cut a chunk out of her cheek. Unlike the movie, she cannot have her eye pop out. I'm so sorry. Her face-up was a unique one, as I steered away from my usual big-eyed characters and attempted to give her the classic Tim Burton look. Thin eyebrows, large wide eyes, and teeny tiny pupils, although I did give her teeny tiny blue irises to go with the teeny tiny pupils just to add more detail. Her wedding dress and gloves are permanently attached to the doll. The bodice was a custom-made corset with the beads individually added to it. The skirt was glued onto the doll first before adding the corset. The fabric used here was a gauze material, something that frayed easy and looked flowy and transparent like in the film. I used watered-down paints to color the dress as seen in this photo right here. Her shoes are from a Claudia Wolf doll, which is the big sister body type from Monster High. Her veil can come on and off, and was made with leftover dress fabric, miniature roses, and jewelry wire. Her bouquet of roses was made from the leftover roses from the veil. Both pieces were hand painted as well. She was my most satisfying custom. I was absolutely thrilled with how well she turned out, and her photos are some of my favorite doll photos that I've ever taken. My friend was also very happy with her. The next doll I made was another one for the shop, which is a 1950s inspired vampire girl, which I named Valerie. So at the time, I was still listening to Voltaire's music, and one day I was jamming out to the song Raised by Bats. And of all things, I envisioned this doll's design listening to that song. I don't know why or how, my guess because she's a vampire, and they can turn into bats. So she's technically raised by bats. I used an Alyssa Bat doll from Monster High, and her face-up was a relatively simple one. She's got red eyes, winged eyeliner, a small heart tattoo on her cheek, as the doll was bruised up in that spot, and it was a cute way to cover it up, and the most adorable set of fangs. Her hair was not rooted this time around. She marks the first and only time I've used yarn wefts for doll hair. These wefts were strategically glued to the doll's scalp and then styled into a high ponytail. I didn't like the process process of the yarn wefts. I'm so used to the rooting process that I didn't care for the change, so she's the only doll I've made that has yarn wefts for hair. For those who don't know, yarn wefts are made by taking strands of yarn and brushing them out with a dog brush, and then using a flat iron to smooth them out. The finished product resembles hair. The upside is that you can use heat to style the hair and not worry about melting it. And it's posable hair! Fun! Her outfit consists of a jersey knit tube top with a cardigan sewn onto it, and a poodle skirt with a purple tulle petticoat. The actual skirt is made from felt, and instead of a poodle, it's a little bat, and it's the cutest thing. He's got little red eyes. Her socks are also glued to the doll's feet, and they have lace trim. I don't remember where I got the shoes from, but I painted them to very loosely resemble saddle shoes. The glasses were a last-minute addition. They actually belonged to Gulia Yelps, in fact, the same Gulia Yelps doll that I used for Emily. I added the glasses to give the doll a little more color since she's mainly purple and black, and they turned out so cute. I mean, I can't, my goodness. Valerie turned out so adorable, and she is still available on my Etsy shop for purchase. The next doll is another angel doll. This one's name is Abigail. When it comes to naming my angels, I try to stick with biblical names like Elijah, Abigail, Tabitha, so on and so forth. Abigail has this stunning curly blonde hair, and it's long and it's flowing and it's just simply beautiful. Mwah, chef's kiss. I also added gold trimming along the cuffs of her sleeves and the hem of her skirt. She simply got the best hair out of all of my angels. I mean, my goodness, look at it. I don't mean to bring it up again, but just look at it. She was listed on the shop, and I think somebody purchased her a few days after the fact. My next doll was a Christmas doll, the first Christmas doll that I've ever done, and she's scented! This is Snickerdoodle. She's a Christmas elf who bakes cookies. She thankfully only had very minor modifications done. All she needed was elf ears. She used to be a Madeline Hatter doll. Maddie is actually shorter than the other characters, so it fit perfectly. So her outfit consists of a white blouse with a big Christmas skirt and a green apron since she's baking all of these delicious cookies. Her shoes were from Madeline Hatter's baking outfit, and the best part is easily her hair, as it smells just like sugar cookies. And y'all, it's the best smell ever. Holy moly. Snickerdoodle is available for purchase on Etsy, and she comes with a baking table, complete with a mixer, some cookie cutters, a red bowl, a whisk, and a few plates of cookies. Fun fact, the sugar cookies and the chocolate chip cookies were made by me for the Christmas cookie stop motion that I did many years ago. They were made from polymer clay and puffy paint, and I believe I made the plates too. She turned out so cute. She's just oozing with Christmas energy, and she's probably the most well-equipped of the dolls that I've made, as she comes with a whole set of baking items. The next doll I made was a summertime themed doll, which I made in like January or February. And you guys, of all the dolls I've made, this one is my favorite. Her name is Tara, and if you couldn't tell, she's a tangerine scented doll. She's got bright orange hair, a hand-stitched floral dress, and the flower in her hair is held in place by a yellow sewing pin acting as the center of the flower. She just turned out so pretty. And you know, this is one of my favorite faces that I've painted. She's got just the sweetest face and the prettiest eyes. She's got my favorite outfit too. I mean, out of all the dresses and things that I've made for my dolls, Tara's got one of my all-time favorites. Tara came with a basket filled with tangerines that I made out of polymer clay. She was listed on Etsy, and much like Abigail, she sold out within a matter of days. So the next doll that I made was another commission piece that I did for a person who reached out to me on Etsy. She asked me if I could make her a Ramona Badwolf doll. Ramona Badwolf is a character from Ever After High that was never officially made into a doll. Ramona was Cerise Hood's older sister, who, if you couldn't tell, took more of their father's traits, and their father is the big bad wolf. When creating Ramona, I used a Cerise Hood doll, naturally, as they are sisters after all. Ramona was the first doll to have a tri-colored hank of doll hair for rerooting, with the exception of the front part of her hair. That was all red. Her wolf ears, her boots, and shoulder pad all have faux fur. Her whole outfit is sewn to the doll, but the pants and shirt, if I recall correctly, can slide on and off. All of Ramona's jewelry and her headpiece were made from spare accessories that I had from multiple dolls, and they were all painted gold. The lady who had asked me to make Ramona just fell in love with her and how she turned out, so much so that she asked if I could make her another custom doll, this time of a character she created. This is Iclyn White, a fan-made character who's supposed to be the daughter to Snow White, and one who more closely resembles the Disney version compared to Apple White, which is the official Ever After High character that's supposed to be Snow White's daughter. There wasn't any concept art of this character that the lady could provide me, but she did ask me if I could specifically give Iclyn a more natural-looking face and black hair. I was knee-deep into Animal Crossing New Horizons at the time, and a lot of cottagecore and fairy tale inspired posts were popping up on my Instagram feed, so a lot of Iclyn's clothes are very cottagecore heavy. Funnily enough, the doll I used for this custom was a Raven Queen doll, which in the Ever After High universe is the daughter of the evil queen in Snow White. I just thought it was funny. So Raven has a widow's peak. I couldn't really figure out how to get rid of that, so I just incorporated it into Iclyn's design. Her face, specifically her eyes, quickly became one of my favorite repaints. She just looks so sweet and just so wholesome. I love her so much. The whole outfit was handmade by me, and it is removable. Iclyn's dress is one of my better outfits for sure. I've brought this up in previous episodes, but I'm not the best when it comes to sewing doll clothes, so when something comes out decent, I'm very happy with it. After I finished Iclyn, I stopped taking commissions for quite some time, and I went back to making more characters that were not commissioned pieces. Such as our next doll, Lily. Lily is an Easter-inspired doll. Lily is a little bit of both sides of Easter Sunday. She celebrates both the resurrection and the bunny. So her accessories include a basket of lilies, removable bunny ears, and a miniature Bible. I believe the Bible is a 1/12 scale sized one from Hobby Lobby's miniature section, but it fit fine for what I needed it for. Lily was made using a Generation 1 Draculaura doll from Monster High, and I love using specifically the older versions of Draculaura as a base for dolls, as she's one of the easiest Monster High dolls to turn into more human characters, next to Claudine and all of her siblings. Lily's Easter dress and cardigan were sewn by hand and onto the doll itself. The outfit will never ever come off. Her hair is pre-curled blonde doll hair that I purchased at Hobby Lobby because at the time dollyhair.com was not carrying pre-curled hair, and I had worked with Hobby Lobby's curled doll hair in the past. Lily's high up there as one of my favorite dolls that I've made. I love her pastel color palette. I am obsessed with her super curly hair. She just turned out so pretty. Lily is listed on my Etsy shop and she is available for purchase. So shortly after I finished Lily, I was contacted by a gentleman through Etsy, and he asked if I could make him not one, not two, but 3 custom dolls, and all 3 happened to be Disney characters. So of course I jumped on the opportunity, even though I had told myself I wasn't going to do any more commissions, but you know, him and I wound up chatting. He was super nice. He used to be a cast member for the Disney World parks. I think he was part of the international program, if memory serves me right. And he really liked the work that I did, and so I wound up making him the following characters: Princess Tiana and her best friend Lottie from Princess and the Frog, and Princess Elionwy from Disney's The Black Cauldron. We're going to start with Tiana and Lottie, but first, for those who are not familiar, The Princess and the Frog is an animated Disney film released in 2009, and it follows Tiana, a woman living in New Orleans in the 1920s, who, during a party, comes across a frog who we learn is Prince Naveen, who was turned into a frog in an earlier scene because he wound up messing around with the Shadow Man, Dr. Facilier. After Tiana kisses the frogs in hopes of turning him back into a human, she herself turns into a frog, and the two of them have to go find a way to turn themselves back into humans. The Princess and the Frog has one of the coolest Disney villains ever, the aforementioned Dr. Facilier. It's beautifully animated, and there are a ton of fun and catchy songs. The movie also carries 2 very big distinctions. The first being that Princess Tiana is the first Black Disney princess, and her film is one of the last Disney films to be 2D animated. Tiana's also got to be like the hardest working and the most ambitious of the princesses. It's incredibly satisfying to see her achieve her dream of opening her restaurant by the end of the film. Now, there are plenty of Tiana dolls readily available, either made directly by Disney, Hasbro, Mattel, and whatnot, But none of the dolls happen to have Tiana's blue dress from the party scenes in the middle of the film, which is what the client wanted. For Tiana's base, I went with the newest Disney Store Tiana doll. These ones are readily available at any Disney store or in the Disney parks, or on Shop Disney online when they're like about 20 bucks. I did not reroute Tiana. I really loved her textured hair, and quite frankly, I did not want to chop it all off and have to attempt to restyle it, so I kept her hair as is. So Tiana's was really simple. All I had to do was repaint her face and get her a new outfit. The crown was a spare crown that I had from my accessory bin. The dress was not made by me. I do not take any credit for the stunning outfit that she has on. Instead, for Tiana's dress and also Lottie's dress, I reached out to Melaine Doll on Etsy. She's a seller from Thailand who makes these stunning recreations of Disney princess dresses for Barbie dolls. So I found her shop, loved her work, and I reached out to her and I commissioned her to make me Charlotte's party dress and Tiana's blue dress. After a few weeks, they arrived in the mail, and I was so happy with how beautiful they turned out. Let's move on to Tiana's friend, Lottie. Lottie, full name Charlotte LaBouf, is Tiana's best friend in the film, and she's easily one of the funniest Disney characters. My goodness gracious. The memeability of this character is off the charts. But that aside, she is so incredibly supportive of Tiana throughout the film, and their relationship is just so sweet. But it turned out there was a Lottie doll that was released around the movie's release, and Lord Almighty, good grief, you should have seen my face when I saw this in person. They did her dirty! Of the three dolls, Lottie's face-up was the most intense and easily the biggest glow-up from the original factory paint. I mean, look at her, she's so pretty now. The original doll's dress obviously had to go. It was not nearly as big and voluminous as Charlotte's personality, if you know what I mean. So like I mentioned earlier, Melaine Doll not only did Tiana's blue party dress, she also did Charlotte's huge, larger-than-life pink dress, and it turned out so awesome. Much better than the original dress that the doll came in. I mean, look at her. She is the moment. The final doll that I made for this gentleman was Princess Elionwy from Disney's The Black Cauldron. The Black Cauldron is an animated Disney film that was released in 1985 and is widely considered to be the black sheep of Disney's animated library, or at least Disney's darkest film. It's also the first animated Disney film to be rated PG. Very loosely based off of the first two books of the series The Chronicles of Prydain, the movie follows a boy named Taran and his pig Henwen who can see the future. I'm not kidding, that is literally this pig's entire arc. That's why the villain wants the pig knows everything. Along with Princess Elionwy and Flutterflam, who attempt to destroy the titular Black Cauldron to prevent the movie's villain, the Horned King, from ruling the world. The movie spent years in production hell and went through a brutal editing process. In fact, due to the film's dark tone and subject matter, especially towards the end of the movie, a whopping 10 minutes was cut as a result. Yesterworld is a really good video breaking down the creation of the movie. Highly recommended, I'll link it down in the description. The Black Cauldron did poorly at the box office, and Disney has basically tried to bury this film's existence as it nearly drove the company to the ground. But over the years, it's since gained a cult following and can be currently watched on Disney+. Now, I personally have never watched The Black Cauldron myself, so based off of the few internet photos that I found and the few clips that I found online prior to the movie being uploaded to Disney+, Princess Elionwy is a princess who was trapped in the Horned King's dungeons along with her magical floating bauble. And then eventually Taran rescued her, and then she follows him throughout the film to go find the Black Cauldron and save the world, basically. Unlike the other Disney princesses, Elionwy is an actual child and is drawn as such. So for her base, I went with a Wendy Darling doll from the Disney store. Unlike Tiana and Lottie, Elionwy got the full treatment. New hair, new face, the complete package. Her face turned out cute, and her hair is super voluminous and soft, but the outfit was easily the most challenging. Now you're probably wondering, well, why didn't you just have somebody else make the outfit? You already had somebody else make the other two. Yeah, well, the lady that I had make Tiana and Lottie's dresses was only able to make the two that I asked for. I believe at the time when she was doing commissions, the most amount of dresses that she was willing to make for a singular person, like for a commission order, was 2 dresses. So then I was like, okay, I'll just have her make the 2 princess dresses that I know are going to be difficult, and then I'll make the child dress. It should be easy. How bad can that be? So as you can tell, her dress doesn't 100% accurately match the one from the movie, the biggest difference being how the sleeves are styled and the bodice. Yeah, it was the most that I could do. I really did try, and it turned out fine, and the client was happy with the final product, and ultimately his happiness was what mattered. In fact, the only thing that he had me change with Elionwy was that he wanted me to give her bangs like she has in the film. So those were added after I took the photos. So Elionwy actually came with some accessories. I made Henwen, the future seeing piggy from an old LPS pig. LPS is short for Littlest Pet Shop for those unfamiliar. Those toys were the cutest things. Henwen got a new face and painted details. Elionwy also came with her magical floating bauble, and unfortunately, it cannot actually float in real life. I'm so sorry. Overall, I was very pleased with the final product of all 3 dolls, and their new owner could not have been happier. After I completed the 3 Disney dolls, this is when I really started to take a step back from the doll customizing, mostly due to my job outside of the Etsy shop. It's also the same job that I have outside of YouTube, and I just simply wasn't having a whole lot of time to make the dolls. And with commission dolls, you have to meet a specific deadline, whereas all of my other dolls that are not commissions, I can take as much time as I need with them. So after I finished the 3, that's when I finally stopped. I decided to no longer take commissions after I finished the 3, and I haven't taken any commissions since then. While I was working on the 3, I was also working on this doll on the side. Her name is Marina, and she is a mermaid doll, and her body modifications were the most drastic since I made Emily the Corpse Bride. To make Marina's tail, instead of just sawing the doll's legs off, I bound them together and I used epoxy sculpt, and I molded the tail around her legs. All things considered, it actually worked really well. After a ton of sanding later, I glued on pink, blue, and silver sequins to act as her scales, individually, one at a time, for what felt like an eternity. Her tail fins were made from faux flower petals from a fake flower that were painted to match the scales. Marina is permanently attached to a big seashell that's got a bunch of little shells surrounding her, and she wears a seashell bra and she has a seashell crown. All of the little shells were from a bag of miniature ones from Hobby Lobby, and the big shell that she sits in was also from Hobby Lobby. The little mound that's inside the shell was just leftover epoxy sculpt from the tail, and that was sculpted to become like a cushion for her to adhere to. Marina has gorgeous long turquoise hair and matching eyebrows. I remember using a lot of Pearl-Ex powder for her face and tail. And Pearl-Ex powder, for those who don't know, is essentially like a micro glitter, and it makes things super duper shiny, and if you get it anywhere on your skin, it will be a pain in the butt to remove. All in all, Marina was easily one of my most detailed dolls, and she took the most time. I believe it took me 3 or 4 months to finish Marina. Marina is currently listed on the Etsy shop and is available for purchase. This is Tabitha. She is one of 2 angel dolls that I most recently completed. Tabitha was my first black angel doll, and she's also the first to come with an accessory, a flute. The doll that I used for her base was a Claudine Wolf doll that was like the baseball player one, and she came with a removable piece of bubblegum. I figured an easy fix would be to give her an instrument. I made the flute to go with her, and let me just say that Tabitha's photos came out so beautifully. Oh my goodness. Like, next to Emily, Tabitha has probably got by far the most beautiful set of photos that I think I've ever taken of a doll. I mean, she's stunning. She's radiant. She's heavenly. The most recent angel that I made is Eve. Eve is another curly-haired blonde doll. and I used a pre-curled hair from Hobby Lobby, the same blonde hair that I used with Lily, because I wound up buying like 3 Hanks worth. Nothing much to say about Eve. She's just another angel doll, but she did turn out very, very cute. She's very sweet, and just like all the others, just very heavenly and ethereal, and just pleasant. Tabitha was already sold, but Eve is still available for purchase. Right after I made Tabitha, I also made a magical elf character. Her name is Isadora, which, fun fact, is actually the full name of our dog, Izzy, but nobody ever calls her by her full name. Ever. Isadora was made using Monster High's Kirsty Trollson, which was the troll character that was a gamer. When I made Isadora, I took a lot of inspiration from World of Warcraft. I don't personally play the game, but my mom played the game for years, and when I looked at Kirsty as a base, I instantly got like fantasy game vibes. And again, more specifically WoW, since that's really the only fantasy game I'm somewhat familiar with. I'm so sorry. Isadora came with a little dragon companion. This is actually a hippogriff figurine, if I'm not mistaken, from the Hagrid Barbie doll. So I purchased the Hagrid doll for a completely different custom, but I wanted to make use of his little hippogriff slash dragon friend, so I repainted him, gave him a little more detail, and Isadora is the proud owner of this cute little dragon figure. Isadora also came with a wand that I made from epoxy sculpt and a spellbook. So the spellbook is actually a book charm from Hobby Lobby that could open and close, and it had actual pages. So to fill them, I wrote in fun little potion recipes and cute little magical puns inside. It was adorable. I think my favorite thing about Isadora is the fact that the lady who purchased her also bought Tabitha at the same time. So I thought that was pretty neat. Now last, but most certainly not least, the final doll I completed was Hazel. Hazel is a witch doll, you know, your typical cutesy Halloween witch, and she was made using, I think, another Duchess Swan or an Apple White doll, one of the two. Hazel had presented with issues very early on in her transformation. The biggest issue was that her neck peg broke completely and was stuck inside of the doll's head. When I managed to retrieve the peg from her head, it wasn't attaching to the base of her neck properly, so I had no choice but to permanently set the head with glue, so Hazel has no articulation in her head whatsoever. Outside of that, the rest of the process was relatively smooth. She has an adorable little dress that I made with some spare Halloween fabric. Her tights were borrowed from another doll, and the shoes belong to Megan Broomsticks from the Bradzilla doll line. Specifically, the Megan doll that I used for my stop motions. What, she had really cute witch boots. Hazel's hairpiece was an old Halloween hair tie slash hair pretty that I owned for many, many years, and I only wore once because it was super uncomfortable. She was originally going to have a hat, but that was one of the other issues that I came across. I just couldn't seem to get the hat to look right, and I think I wound up making 2 or 3 different variations of it, and none of them looked good. Now, much like Snickerdoodle, Hazel does come with a lot of accessories, so they include the table, pumpkins, some old Monster High foods, mini potion bottles, and this massive ceramic cauldron filled with pumpkin soup. So instead of like a traditional like witch potion or something like that, I wanted to make pumpkin soup, and I think it was because at the time my sister had made pumpkin soup for the family and it was really, really good. And so I was just like, you know, it's Halloweeny enough, it's pumpkin soup. So most of the cauldron's filled with air dry clay, and it's only the top layer that's a mixture of paint and gloss, and I garnished it with green paper to act as the garnish for the pumpkin soup. The white that you see in there is actually supposed to be cream, like how you actually serve pumpkin soup. Overall, Hazel is a cute little Halloween doll. I love how her face turned out. It is a shame that her head is not articulated at all. I mean, you can even tell in the pictures her head stays in one position the entire time. But you know, the rest of her is just fine, and I was really happy with how she turned out. Hazel, along with all of her accessories, are on the Etsy shop right now, and she is available for purchase.
If you made it this far, hi, I love you. Thank you. So those were all of the dolls that I made from 2020 all the way to 2023. Now, do I have any future projects in mind? Absolutely. So currently I have 4 dolls that are in the early stages of their transformations. Some of them are a little further along than others, but it's okay. They're early along enough to where I can get footage of the rest of their transformations. Some of them will probably be more on the repaints and outfits. Others are definitely going to be just the repaints, and that's going to be the case for one in particular. And then obviously a lot of them will come with their own little accessories, so some time will be dedicated to that too. And obviously once those 4 are done, I have so many ideas for dolls, you guys. I have a whole page of one of my journals just filled with ideas for dolls that I would like to accomplish this year, Lord willing. But even if it's not this year, just I want these projects to come to fruition. And obviously these will be listed on the shop unless I say otherwise. I mean, I have so many ideas for future dolls, and I cannot wait to create them and share them with you all. So thank you guys for watching. It really truly does mean the world to me. I know this video was really long compared to my other doll custom videos, but I really just wanted to showcase what I had been working on since I was gone from YouTube. And I'm grateful that you guys made it this far. So now I would like to know, which dolls were your favorite? Leave them down in the comments below. If you haven't already, and if you'd like to, you can subscribe to my channel somewhere up in here. If you'd like to see the last Disney vlog that I filmed, which was the grand opening of the Communicore Hall and Plaza over at Epcot, I'm going to leave that video down here. And I finally got around to making a playlist for all of the Amateur's Journey episodes that I've done thus far. If you want to rewatch any of them, you can check out the playlist up here. Thank you again for watching. Be sure to tell your friends and family about the channel. And if you guys have any questions or if you just want to say anything at all, be sure to leave them down in the comments. I will try my best to reply, but do know I always read them. I'll see you soon. Bye!